A new budget proposal from the city will help low-income residents receive half-price Metro cards. Koala Che has more on this.
If the City Council has its way, low-income New Yorkers will pay half price for Metro cards. Council members approved a $15 million proposal to fund a new pilot program. Transit advocates and low-income riders are hoping the proposal will get passed. 23-year-old Samuel Santella is one of the low-income riders who will benefit. Every morning, he takes 2 buses and a train to take his little sister to school. The commute is over in an hour. Mr. Santella is paying $121 for a full-price Metro card. That's almost a quarter of his family's living expenses. He's not alone.
We're still economically struggling. Have a lower price Metro card will help us you have no idea.
It's going to be helpful for students from a low-income family. For me, I live in Project, you know how it is. So which is going to help us, help our parents out.
According to a Community Service Society report, 1 in 4 low-income New Yorkers say they can't afford a Metro card. Transit advocacy groups have been working closely with the City Council members to get the proposal passed. The pilot program will target the low-income residents, specifically households living under the federal poverty line. That's about $24,000 for a family of 4. By 2020, transit advocates hope to fully fund a $200 million program that will cover New Yorkers aged 18 to 64 who live under the poverty line. That's about 800,000 people. But Mayor de Blasio opposed city funding for this program. He believes the state should be responsible for paying. Transit advocates hope the program will be adopted in the city's budget for the next fiscal year, which will be released by July 1st.
Thank you very much, Koala. I think the big question, I suppose, me and the viewers would like to know is why is the mayor opposed to paying for this program?
Because the mayor thinks that the state should be responsible for the funding because the MTA is a state authority. And actually, the mayor's office also said that the city has already paid $16 million annually to subsidize subway fares for disabled riders, for school children, and elderly.
Thank you very much, Koala.
Thank you, Anade.
You're welcome.
In a low-income neighborhood known more for its problems than for its art, this outdoor festival speaks to the community.
God woke up this morning and said, let me make a nice chocolate boy.
From poetry to painting, local artists have an audience here in East Brooklyn that appreciates their work, like Stephanie Pfaffer-Roy, who draws women of color.
I feel like it's fitting for my art to just be here so young girls could see it and see representations of them, positive representations of themselves.
The festival is organized by Catherine Green of Arts East New York. Under a new cultural plan, New York City is targeting programs like this one for funding increases.
We want to make sure that every community in New York City has that sort of opportunity to unlock and open the minds of children and youth all over this city.
Green says the additional money will help her better market their programs and make them more widely available.
New York spends $188 million a year on art and culture, more than any other city in the country. But some neighborhoods benefit way more than others. Most of the funding goes to 33 city-owned institutions like the Museum of Natural History, but they are mostly located in Manhattan.
That's a long trip, not to mention an expensive outing for families who live more than an hour away by public transportation.
It's pretty far to go to, but it'd be nice to see more of that in the community, especially Broadway show. I mean, if we could have a Broadway show in Brownsville, that would be great.
We think this is going to have a very big impact in low-income communities.
According to the city's commissioner of culture, the $1.5 million it's spending in these areas is a good investment.
These kinds of activities, arts activities, are correlated with a much bigger impact in low-income communities. Parts of cities that have rich cultural activities are actually safer, they have better school outcomes, and they're healthier.
It's a plan that allows neighborhoods to celebrate their unique cultures, and that has East Brooklyn dancing in the streets. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York. While those who decided to leave by plane are paying a premium for their tickets, prompting accusations of price gouging against airlines.
I just tried to book the first ticket I was able to get, and it was on United, and it was almost $1,500.
Immigrants, undocumented and legal, came together on Monday to protest President Trump's immigration and policies and to call attention to workers' rights. Our reporter, Koala Shea, joins us from downtown Manhattan with more. Koala.
Yes, Jamie, President Trump has served in office for 100 days, and many immigrants in New York City are upset with the president's policies. About 4,000 immigrant workers gathered at Foley Square and focused attention on what they call is the need for increased protection for undocumented immigrants.
Every day we feel upset. Every time we watch the news, he say, we don't want to get any Mexicans. We want to build the wall. We want to deportation everyone in here.
President Trump's administration's focus on deportations has really created a lot of fear in the community. It's led to families being pulled apart from each other.
These people are protesting the executive order that President Trump signed on January 25th that make it easier for law enforcement to deport certain undocumented immigrants. The administration says that it's necessary to protect national security. Here in New York City, lawmakers are considering 9 bills that will protect undocumented immigrants.
Working with the City Council, we're going to make sure that anyone unjustly faced with deportation will have the legal assistance they need to protect themselves and their family.
Mayor de Blasio said that the city will spend $16.4 million on legal assistance to undocumented immigrants. This will also be a part of his budget, which will be reviewed by the City Council later this week.
Koala, can you tell me how many undocumented immigrants are living in New York City?
Yes, Jamie, according to the Fiscal Policy Institute, there are about 500,000 undocumented immigrants live in New York City, and they contribute to $40 billion. That's about 3% to the state's GDP.
Thank you, Koala.
When the Island School in Lower Manhattan opens its doors in the morning, Principal Swanee Ramos is there to greet the children and make sure they get a hot breakfast. At this school, where nearly half of the students are homeless, late stragglers are common, as are students dealing with many distractions from their schoolwork.
We provide 3 meals, hot meals. So we provide breakfast, lunch, and a hot supper at the end of the day.
Lydia Og recently moved from a homeless shelter into a subsidized apartment with her 2 children. She decided to keep them in the school for continuity, even though it takes her more than an hour to get there on the subway.
A lot of people have same story like me. I know a single mother from the shelter, like the school, like my second family.
The school has a laundry room, paid for with grant money, so families struggling with the high cost of housing in New York have a place to wash school uniforms.
The number of homeless students in New York City has been rising, along with the general homeless population. In the last year, 1 in 10 students spent time either in a city shelter or living with relatives. This presents a unique set of challenges, not only for the families, but also for the schools that serve them.
So you can look at this rubric as
homeless students have higher rates of absenteeism and lower test scores. Advocates for children say the city needs more social workers for the 100 schools where more than 10% of the population is homeless.
We saw in New York City that more than half of students living in shelters were absent for 20 or more school days over the course of the year. That means that they miss about the equivalent of a month of school.
Principal Ramos leaves her school open until 7 in the evening, providing as long as possible a safe and loving environment for students who may lack the stability of a home when they leave. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
You can change this election today. If you think that by door knocking or talking to someone doesn't make a difference, you're wrong. It makes all the difference in the world.
For months now, buses and vans of Clinton supporters have gathered here in Queens to travel out of state. Monday was the last day.
One more day to bring a victory, a historic victory, when we will be able to elect the first woman president in this country.
Many of the campaigners are Latinos.
We are here and we have a voice, and especially now when we've been kind of put apart by the opposite candidate.
The Latino community, again, from day one, we were sort of thrusted into this campaign with the comments that were made, and we're going to be here till the end.
This is my 4th time I go canvassing for Hillary. I went 3 times in Philadelphia. The last 3 times I went to, there were Black American communities. Now we go to Latino communities.
Today's destination, Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Magnífico, muchas gracias. Okay. Si tiene alguna pregunta o todo está claro con todo.
No.
Que gane ella, sí, eso es. Muchas gracias, mucho entusiasmo. Maria said that she's going to definitely vote for Hillary Clinton, and her husband is too. They know the voting center, they know everything they need to know, and they're ready, and they want us, on Saturday we're going to celebrate, and all for her. Mientras haya trabajo y salud, claro. ¿Verdad? Exacto. Ok, bueno, muchas gracias. Y celebramos mañana de una vez, si Dios quiere. Gracias. He says, maybe not for us, but we would like her to, first, to be a good president. We think she's going to be. And secondly, we would love if she can do something about immigration. Not for us because we don't have that problem, but for people that we know that are going through that. So that would be nice if she can come with a solution.
When you go out and sit somewhere public, like the subway, I think you have to be ready for unpredictable events to happen. About 9 months ago, I made a little office with wall art, and I would just talk to people. And because of that, they would say things like, "Oh wow, this is great, this feels like therapy." Then after the election, I thought people were going to have a really hard time talking to each other. So I brought some Post-its. Since many people consider the wall to be a political commentary or a result of the election, a lot of people who have a contrary position are going to show up and try and light people on fire and make people upset.
But you did, because you said you were going to allow people who are for Trump to put a message on your wall. That is a political message. When you say that that is going to be accepted, that is a political message. You're willing to allow hate and anti-acceptance to exist, and that is wrong. Do not vote for this wall. If you want diversity and openness, it's not okay.
A young man was yelling at me because he was saying that I was censoring what people were saying. He says that I'm normalizing hate.
I don't care what a post-it said. A post-it note is nothing. A post-it note is nothing. Read it.
Regardless of whether people agree with each other or not, if you're going to provide someone with an opportunity to express themselves, we learn through dialogue, so we need to talk to people who are different than us.
It's a two-sided dialogue, so I read the note, here it is. Here's the idea. It came to me, I read it. I understand it. I do not agree with it. Anger now, fight next. So my reply is to drop the note.
This is a space that I'm encouraging people to be inclusive and to respect what other people have to say. So what I'm saying is that maybe this isn't a place for you to take action.
Would you say that a note that says white supremacy one is inclusive?
In that moment, it seemed like conversation was only making him more upset. So in that way, silence was maybe the best option.
No. She did not. What do you mean no? He can say what he wants. He can say what he wants, bro. He can say what he wants. What's the issue? He can say what he wants, bro. Why are you holding back free speech? I thought this was about free speech. Why are you saying not to talk? I thought it was about free speech. Exactly. It's not about free speech, bro. It's not about free speech where you're telling people not to respond to me.
It wasn't as a measure to curb their free speech. It was for them to realize that their speech in that moment was acting like fuel on a fire.
Someone was talking, this guy right here was talking, okay? And then you said don't respond. And you're talking about inclusiveness? Get the fuck out of here. And you know what? I support a lot of the notes I just knocked down, but I just want him to go pick them back up.
I feel like I learned a lot about people and when is a good time to have conversation and when is not a very good time to have conversation.
I think that people really need an opportunity to come together, to get out their thoughts. A lot of people that I work with have really been struggling since the election in various ways, and I think that it's helpful for people to be able to express whatever feelings they may be having and also see support, even if that support is anonymous, to know that they're not alone.
I wrote that life isn't that bad.
and life isn't going to be that bad. People have been through a lot worse, and we're pretty lucky just to live here, and especially like in New York.
You shouldn't be discouraged by what's happening right now. You should be full of passion and drive to make the world better. I'd love to go to places that are red states, because ultimately this whole election happened because people were so fearful. And that fear isolated everyone. You know, if I can do projects like this, not just in the country, but all over the world, I think that'd be awesome. I would love for Subway Therapy to be my full-time job.
Thousands of workers gather at City Hall to demand improved safety at construction sites.
We as the union construction workers are now standing up and being the voice for the non-union workers so that they get properly trained, so we end this epidemic of fatalities on job sites.
Since July 2016, there have been 346 injuries and 7 fatalities, nearly 40% increase over the year before, according to the Department of Buildings. The Building and Construction Trade Council is sponsoring the rally. They say non-union workers are not getting trained properly.
I started non-union, I went to work for the union, and I'll never go back because they work unsafe.
This group wants City Council to pass legislation that will require safety training for all workers, union and not. Inside City Hall, lawmakers are considering this bill, one of 21. This real estate developer hires non-union workers and says they get trained.
We don't have accidents on our jobs. There are non-union people in open shop that may. We do not. We train our people.
The construction workers hope City Council will pass the legislation, but there is no timeline. For the Ink.NYC, I'm Koala Shea, reporting from City Hall. It's Beer Week. Restaurants are promoting beer and customers are drinking it. But one brewery sees a chance to make a difference by helping the American Civil Liberties Union.
I think right now we're all in the midst of just a crazy time in our country. If we're going to be out drinking beer and having a good time, why not do it for a good cause?
Taproom 307 on the Lower East Side is offering a special menu. 8 international dishes paired with local beers. 25% of its profits from this menu will go to the ACLU. Employees, managers, and the distributor are all on board.
I appreciate it that they want to help. Let's make money, but also turn this into something that can be a beneficial thing, to the community.
The beer manager came up with the idea, inspired by the diverse backgrounds of her colleagues, including the chef Omar Lopez, who is from Mexico.
We have to show to everybody we're working very hard. We are important in America.
Taproom 307 has done similar fundraising events in the past. Last month, they raised $4,000 for Planned Parenthood. This time it's the ACLU because they support its mission.
Human rights are crucial. The food industry, the beer industry, this is a very inclusive industry.
Although Taproom 307 just started its pairing menu for a day, they say what's more important than fundraising is to raise people's awareness for ACLU's immigration efforts. Reporting from the Lower East Side, this is Koala Shea for the Ink.NYC.